What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and this is the Thunder Channel on Nootropics. Thank you so much for being with me. So we're going to talk about how Silicon Valley entrepreneurs are using nootropics wrong, using them incorrectly. And to preface, I'll give you, I guess, this simple gist. You know, a lot of Silicon Valley entrepreneurs that have come to me for consulting on nootropics and brain performance are not getting consistency in the stuff that they're taking for brain performance. And usually they're using 3 compounds only, you know, of the 30 to 50 that they could be using. And wow, there's this whole reservoir that they're sort of missing. They're using modafinil, they're using ADDERALL, and they're using VYVANSE. And they're not even taking those chemicals correctly. And 2 of the 3 they shouldn't even be taking. And so I want to break down what Silicon Valley entrepreneurs are doing wrong based on my work with, at this point, 40 startup founder / successful company owners out in San Francisco, and really how to fix it, how to actually use nootropics the right way. In the meantime, what supports this broadcast, a couple of nootropic products. Number 1, Cortex Stack, powerful pre-made nootropic stack. I mean, look, verbal fluency, mental energy in a capsule. It just turns the lights on. Get Cortex Live, cortex.com. If you're new to nootropics, Nootropic Ground Zero is where you have to be. It's a video course that I created for people that are new to nootropics to understand some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about and more. If you're in a couple years and you ascend to the 6-year mark, masterclass is where you have to be. And then lastly, if you want to ascend to the 10-year plus mark, which it comes with a litany of distinctions on how to really properly get insane results from nootropics, get the Nootropics God course. Lastly, what's relevant to this video, if you need consulting from me, my specialty is nootropics and brain performance enhancement using nootropics and some supplements. Get on board with either a 3.5-month or a 6-month consult. I mean, these are hands-on, results-driven, one-on-one brain engineering and energy engineering consults. You can find them at livecortex.com. Okay, so breaking the preface down a little further. Over the last year, I've consulted just about 40 startup entrepreneurs, well-funded startup entrepreneurs, or existing companies that are going to be in for the long haul in Silicon Valley. And none of them were using nootropics the correct way. In fact, none of them even tapped into the wellspring of the nootropics that are available to us as nootropics enthusiasts, like the 30 to 50 chemicals that we typically discuss. They all came to me lacking consistency in brain performance because of what they were doing, what they were taking. The 3 primary chemicals that these folks from Silicon Valley that were entrepreneurs that had come to me for consulting and running into inconsistent brain performance were taking were modafinil, ADDERALL, and VYVANSE, right? I know those of you that are seasoned and been watching this channel for a while, you're like, oh, fuck, well, I see the major 2 mistakes right there. And yes, the 2 major mistakes are ADDERALL and VYVANSE for sure. Modafinil, that can absolutely be in a intelligent nootropic schedule, but the other 2 have absolutely no place in someone who's trying to get consistently good brain performance. So a lot of these folks will come to me and be like, man, I'm overstimulated, I'm burnt out at the end of the week. Usually that leads to crashes. Sometimes it takes them 4 to 5 days, a week, 2 weeks to recover from that. Some of them would be drinking on Fridays heavily, sort of binge drinking, and then like sleeping a lot and resting the weekend just to get enough of a recovery so that they can come back Monday and be okay, but they'd still be burnt out. And then they'd start the VYVANSE, ADDERALL, modafinil cycle all over again. No cycling, no consistent strategy, no variation between neurotransmitter systems. This is a very important point from the compounds that they were taking. They're just straight up forcing the release of dopamine, with these compounds, and then on the modafinil side, in wakefulness. And that is a terrible way. It's actually a great way to drain your energy, to keep your effects from nootropics very inconsistent, and ultimately to desensitize the dopamine response and the stimulant response over time, to the point of diminishing returns. Then you're dead in the water, okay? So that is a horrible strategy. So obviously what I did with these folks coming to me is I put them on 30 different regimens that we perfected over the course of 2.5, 3 months, and then finalized, that were all hitting different neurotransmitter systems. Put them on an ERS, an effective rotation schedule, where they were cycling between those stacks, targeting different systems, so that there was never desensitization or never a lack of potency in what they were taking or doing. and got them to the point where they were just functioning awesomely, very consistently. We were working on receptor maintenance at the same time. A lot of them had some dopamine receptor downregulation that we had to work on too. So, I mean, there were a couple of them that were 3.5-month options, but most of them stood with me for 6 months because, I mean, we needed a lot of time to set all of this up. So that's where they went wrong. And I'm gonna break down what I just said about what they're doing wrong and what they could be doing. Any Silicon Valley entrepreneur that's out there watching that is using nootropics or VYVANSE or ADDERALL or MODAFINIL, and you're trying to improve brain performance, what you can be doing to get consistent brain performance, all right? Number one, you're taking 3 of the same compounds. 3 of the same compounds. In the nootropics roster, there are 30 to 50, let's call it, nootropic chemicals available for you to take. I mean, the racetam roster alone has 7 compounds. The choline sources 4. Energy compounds 5. You've already got, 20 compounds just in those sectors, those sort of genres, if you will, of using nootropics. If you're taking the same, dopamine release stimulating, pharmaceutical stimulating agent consistently, not only will you hit diminishing returns and crashes, but you'll reach the sort of zombified state that those compounds typically put people in. And at that point, you've got dopamine receptor desensitization, and getting out of that, I mean, none of these folks that have come to me, and most folks that are in that position, none of those folks have any idea how to get out of that, right? So that's a whole other thing that you've got to do on top of getting your scheduling and your usage with nootropics and brain performance straight. Ideally, you shouldn't be using them at all because there are many, many other chemicals on the roster on the nootropic side that are dopamine release agents, but that at the same time you could be working on the maintenance of the dopamine receptor side of things so that you never lose potency in those compounds. So let's get to what they should be doing, okay? What you guys should be doing, those of you that are out there in Silicon Valley hustling and you're trying to build your companies, you got startup money or whatever, I totally understand. I mean, you guys need to be focusing 7 to 15 hours a day building your companies and for the foreseeable future, so you can either sell it or do whatever you're gonna do with it. What you should be doing is in the roster of ANIRACETAM, OXIRACETAM, PHENYLPIRACETAM, PHENYLPIRACETAM, CHOLINERGICS, FASERACETAM, TEACRINE, ALCAR, DYNAMINE, theanine, centrophenoxine, theobromine, DMAE, modafinil, 9-MEBC, bromantane, uridine, citicoline. You should be using all of those compounds situated in specific stacks that you switch between throughout the 5 or 6 day work week. I just listed off 20, 25 chemicals, and there's more. In order to do that, first you have to know what those nootropics are and what chemicals are available to you to be using as an entrepreneur. So, you should do some research on that. Maybe go get Nootropics Ground Zero from us, or Nootropics Masterclass or God Course, so you can have an idea of what nootropics are actually out there to stimulate brain performance. But secondly, the most important thing you should be doing that you're doing wrong when using nootropics out there in San Francisco is you need to be first formulating intelligent nootropic stacks that are varied, testing them, adjusting them if they need to be adjusted to perfection. Maybe one was too stimulating, maybe one was not stimulating enough, maybe one gave you side effects, adjusting them to the point that none of that happens and it's perfect. To the point where you've got 20 to 30 formulations that you can go to over the course of, call it a 40 or 50 day period, because you should be cycling off of everything on the weekends, which is another mistake that a lot of these folks were making, okay? So let's just take an example here to give you guys, to illustrate the major point and even to give some of you strategy moving forward to go take onto your business life. The cholinergics, okay? The cholinergics are a set of nootropic chemicals that are concentrating on releasing, forcing your brain to release, a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. Or in some cases, it's making the signaling of acetylcholine in your brain better. Well, that chemical, acetylcholine, if you optimize it correctly, makes you focus better. It gives you better working memory. Literally, you can hold more numbers in your head at once. Your functional memory I/O, your capacity to take information, put it in your working memory, do some other things while it's still there, pull it out of your working memory, put some other things back in your working memory, synthesize it all, compartmentalize it all. Acetylcholine helps you do that. It's one of the major neurotransmitters a lot of nootropics target. And by using Adderall and VYVANSE and things and just modafinil, you're not even hitting that side of things, which is crazy. So some of the most powerful cholinergics are ANIRACETAM, OXIRACETAM, and PHENYLPIRACETAM. Okay, so let's just take an example of one day of your 5-day work week of putting a cholinergic in the mix. I mean, doing this alone would actually change the course of, people's brain performance in terms of consistency. Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, if they just added a cholinergic stack one day out of the week. Now that's not super optimal. You'd want to be switching between different stacks the subsequent days of the week. But let's just start there to give you an idea. Monday, instead of going back to your, any of those 3 compounds that you folks take out there, take instead 400 milligrams ANIRACETAM, 200 milligrams OXIRACETAM, 30 milligrams acetylcholine, 100 milligrams of teacrine, 50 milligrams L-theanine. 50 milligrams L-theanine. That's your Monday stack. That stack should provide you a good bit of working memory, strong focus, the ability to stay on task, even a degree of motivation just because your brain is working better, compartmentalization capacity, better processing capacity, likely more verbal fluency. These are the things that some of the other chemicals that folks are fussing with over there in a limited capacity aren't able to achieve. And that's just Monday. So here you have a day where you didn't have to take Adderall, VYVANSE, modafinil. You differentiated between, from the chemicals that are working on certain neurotransmitters. You stopped working on this excessive dopamine release stimulant, which those other compounds are bringing, and you switched the brain system to focus on acetylcholine and adenosine, which is the same receptor target as caffeine, essentially. And you can optimize it with chemicals like teacrine and dynamine in a more efficient way. There's a lot, that you can do with nootropics. That's just one day of the week. Now, Tuesday, your second day of the week, to be optimal, right, and to illustrate this further, you would not want to be taking, you would not want to go, okay, I did this on Monday, now I'll go back to, the pharmaceutical stimulants. You don't want to do that. You would want to focus instead on, let's call it an energy-centered stack, an energy-centered nootropic stack. Now, there are a vast array of nootropic chemicals that are classified solely as energy-producing nootropics. So here's an example of what you would do on Tuesday. On Tuesday, instead of taking your pharmaceutical stimulant, you would take 300 milligrams of Alcar, 100 milligrams dynamine, 50 milligrams theobromine, and maybe somewhere around 300 to 500 milligrams, let's call it 5, of lemon balm. What that would do is that would give you a substantial amount of energy via the Alcar, making your brain cells use fatty acids better for energy. The mitochondria will literally be optimized, super optimized in terms of energy production for brain function. You'd be binding somewhat heavily to the adenosine receptor using an antagonist, some of these chemicals, theobromine, dynamine specifically, in a way that shuts tiredness off, unlike caffeine, in a way that's more cleaner, like a clean stimulant-like feeling. And at the same time, if you were, a good strategy in nootropics is to be having a stimulant stack and then some sort of balancer to sort of keep things from being over potently stimulated. And also that allows you to focus and have flow a lot better. That's what lemon balm is for. It actually inhibits GABA transaminase, which is an enzyme that breaks GABA down. So you'll have a little more GABA available to sort of keep things calm while you're still stimulated. That's Tuesday. You're already light years ahead of everyone else in Silicon Valley that are using nootropics or trying to use smart drugs and nootropics to perform better. Just by having 2 days where you're not taking those classical 3 compounds, the pharmaceutical stimulants, where you're targeting different neurotransmitter systems and you're cycling between them through the week. Now, look, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you would want to do the same thing. You'd want to switch and have different nootropic chemicals in the mix that are doing different things, but still give you the result of functioning amazingly. That's ultimately what you would want to do. And then next week comes around, you'd want to have a different stack on Monday, different stack on Tuesday, maybe the same stack Wednesday as the week before. Maybe then you can start repeating some stacks. But unless you have this differentiation between neurotransmitter systems that you're attacking with the nootropics that you're taking, you're doing it wrong. You're definitely doing it wrong. And you're all going to lead to burnout. Again, all the people that have come to me, burnt out, can't function correctly. Some of them have loss of libido, general sexual function, which is another side effect of consistently taking stimulants, without varying and understanding this, and hosts of other issues. Doing this, even if you did 5 days a week, the same stacks, but they were differentiated from one another and they weren't your typical pharmaceutical stimulants, they were like classical nootropics intelligently put together, you would prevent this, eventual imminent crash and desensitization of your response to stimulants. You'd prolong that period where you can function well for 6 months, maybe a year, like maybe more. Just by doing that, you would develop massively more consistency in your streamlined brain performance throughout the course of the week, the month. You would pretty much consistently, just by doing that, have streamlined, consistent brain performance, ongoingly. But eventually, if you're not varying even between, those 5 stacks, you'll run into potency issues, tolerance issues ultimately, right? So you've got to have many more of those 5 stack examples that I gave you in the week, like 5 for the next week, a different 5 for the next week, a different 5 for the next week. And again, it's not that you can't take some of them, like the same stack Monday, that you took the previous Thursday, or the same stack Friday that you took that Monday. You can definitely do that, but you want to be varying between systems. This is where folks in Silicon Valley have gotten nootropics wrong. And every one of them that comes to me, it's almost like the same template. I've been taking the pharmaceutical stimulants and the modafinil, and I'm confused as to why they're not working like they used to. Nothing I can do is getting them to the point where they're working like they used to, and I'm coming to you for help. And then we've got to deal with the dopamine receptor stuff, which we do relatively quickly, and then we get them on like tailored, highly tailored for their brains, their particular brains. Nootropic schedules that are diversified and are varied, hitting all these different systems that a lot of them didn't even know existed, and putting them in a place where streamlined, consistent, good stimulation and good energy, clean stimulant energy, is the basis for how they function moving forward. So I hope that makes sense for those of you that are in Silicon Valley, using those 3 chemicals or otherwise stimulants, or maybe even like, getting some of the pre-built stacks and trying to rely on them every single day. It's not something you want to do. You want to cycle those. You want to cycle everything. But importantly, you guys aren't using all of these compounds that are available to you, all the 30 to 50 compounds, some of the chemicals that I mentioned, and more. There are research chemicals that have very, very specific mechanisms of action that you could be using to target all kinds of things to elevate brain function. The list of stuff that we could be using to make you function incredibly is endless. Okay, so those of you that are in Silicon Valley and are entrepreneurs and are looking to either really get into using nootropics correctly, or you're one of these people that fit into this category and you want to get your way out of it and then streamline a bunch of really, really powerful, diversified stacks, work with me. 3.5 months or 6 months. Like the whole video is a pitch for the consults. It's just what I do. I'm already working with Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, right? I don't even need your business, but you guys need to be doing this correctly Because in terms of sustainability and in terms of what you need to be delivering for your investors, what you need as far as like bragging rights, like your company needs to be doing well and consistently. You need to go where you need to be going. The type of output in terms of sheer hours in the day that you need, if some of you are doing sales for your company, the type of verbal fluency that you need, you can not achieve running the strategy that most entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley are running, but that you can achieve with the strategy that I've laid out for you today and more. If you're interested in working with me, I am kind of the world's expert on this. I've got two options, a 3.5-month option, which is a one-on-one, hands-on, results-driven consult for 3.5 months where we do all of this, and then a 6-month option. For those of you that have been taking the pharmaceutical stimulants, better to go with 6 months if you have the budget for it, because we need more time to resensitize the stimulant response, upregulate the dopamine receptor side of things, and then work through this process that I've discussed on this channel. To date, I've worked with 40 of you, and a lot of the leads that come in and, with business people, the first thing I ask folks is, where are you from? Where are you? And if I hear you're from Silicon Valley and you watch this video, it's on, and we're about to make your brain function streamlined and awesome, consistently moving forward and fix whatever issues that you have that you've acquired using this strategy. Maybe let's lastly end on, well, why did it end up like this? Because even though the San Francisco area and the entrepreneurs there are light years ahead of a lot of the country in terms of technology, they're certainly not light years ahead of the rest of the country and even the world on brain performance enhancement, right? There are nootropics enthusiasts that aren't even business people that understand a lot more than Silicon Valley understands about how to properly use nootropics, because they've made nootropics methodology sort of a learning thing for them. Either getting our courses or there's other people out there talking about nootropics. And so what I would say to you folks is take these sort of warnings, take heed to what I'm saying, right? Don't be consistently taking the pharmaceutical stimulants like VYVANSE and ADDERALL, and don't have your regimen strictly be that and MODAFINIL. You've got to switch between systems. You've got to bring in racetams. You've got to bring in the energy compounds. You should probably be working on synthesizing dopamine the correct way instead of just forcing your brain to spit it out, which is what a lot of those stimulants are doing. And you should definitely have a roster of highly targeted nootropic stacks that are giving you streamlined, clean, consistent, side effect-less energy that don't lead to crashes. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Hope that's been helpful. This is a video that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I recently brought another Silicon Valley entrepreneur on, and it was the same situation, so it prompted me to finally end up doing this video. Appreciate you being with me. In the meantime, go support us, livecortex.com. Those of you that have been subscribed to the channel, or if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. We have some epic products, livecortex.com, nootropic products. Number one, Cortex Stack, powerful nootropic stack. We're talking about verbal fluency, mental energy, motivation in a capsule. The stuff is insane. It should be cycled, but you can take it a lot more than a lot of other nootropics. It was set up that way. Do it at livecortex.com. A couple courses, Nootropics Ground Zero. That's if you're brand new to nootropics and you fully want to learn about every nootropic in the roster and how you can build great stacks. Nootropics Masterclass if you want to ascend to the 6-year mark. If you want to go to the 10+ year mark, which is way above kind of any of the information that's out there on nootropics, Nootropics God courses where you have to be. And then lastly, if you want to work with me and have me run the entire protocol for you, which is going to be highly effective in making you function incredibly, 3.5-month option or 6-month option. You can find these consults at livecortex.com. Go book them. I'll reach out to you within probably 5-6 hours, 24 hours at the latest, and we will set up our first call and begin. Thanks for being with me, everybody. Talk to you next time.